Just another manic Monday, whoa, whoa. Just kidding. Yep, if you are listening on the day this episode releases, it is Monday. Yay! Or not. Either way, welcome back to the show. Okay, if you remember from last week, we're starting a new trend. Before we get into the episode, I wanted to read the highlighted review for the week. And this review is titled Perfect Timing. And it says, I started following this podcast at a time when I was feeling the burnout from healthcare, and my people-pleasing nature was really struggling with my return to work from maternity leave, feeling like I wasn't fulfilling my role as a provider or as a mother and wife. I'm just now starting to go through the episodes, and I feel a sense of peace as I feel seen. So thankful for God's grace and peace and Tanya's way with words. And this is from Kristen 722. Kristen, thank you so very, very much for those words. It just blesses my heart. My ultimate goal really in life and leadership has been to help women feel seen and heard. So I'm glad that this podcast is blessing you, and I wish you all of God's grace and patience and fulfillment as you return back to work and have to leave your sweet baby at home. But know that every evening when you come home, it's going to be even more of a blessing when you get to kind of have those snuggles again. So thanks again, Kristen. I really, really appreciate the review. Now, I know not all of you listeners fit this bill, but I'm finding that many women in leadership that I meet and speak to, and many women in general, have some tendencies toward people-pleasing or approval-seeking. In some ways, it got us to where we are, because we are typically very dependable and hardworking. However, it's not an especially healthy way of living or leading. I consider myself a recovering people-pleaser. Notice I said recovering, not recovered. I think I will forever fight the thought distortions that lead me toward people-pleasing. But I've also come to learn how very costly a life spent people-pleasing can be. Welcome to the Grace-Filled Leader Podcast. Do you want a better work-life balance? Do you get stuck in patterns of perfectionism and people-pleasing? Have you always been an overachiever, but really never felt good enough no matter how much outward success you achieve? Hi, I'm Tanya, a wife, mom, leader, Christian life coach, and Jesus lover. For most of my life, I tried to find worthiness through achievement. But no matter how hard I worked or how much I achieved, I never felt like I was enough. I was left burned out, empty, and exhausted. I had no time or energy for myself or my family. I needed balance. I needed peace. I finally started to live like an unconditionally loved daughter of the King, saved by grace. This faith-led podcast will teach you self-care routines and practical leadership strategies to help navigate life and leadership. If you're ready to stop people-pleasing and start living and leading God's way, this podcast is for you. Unbutton your blazers, sister friends. It's time to get after it. I've been studying myself and others and researching the origins of people-pleasing and approval-seeking. We all have different stories, and ultimately different seeds planted that grow into patterns of approval-seeking. But there are pretty common universal traits of people-pleasers. Today we're talking about some of the common motivators for being a people-pleaser. So have a listen and see what resonates with you. The first common motivator for a people-pleaser is that we are genuinely compassionate. This is the most common cause behind being a people-pleaser. You truly care deeply for others. While it's wonderful to be a giving person who genuinely has a lot of empathy for others, it usually means you're not adequately taking care of yourself. You can get lost in taking care of everyone else that you forget about your own needs. Sometimes you are the last person on your list, or sometimes you don't even make the list at all. Another cause of people-pleasing is that you fear disappointing others. None of us wants to be a disappointment, but it's become increasingly clear to me that we are absolutely not capable of pleasing everyone. Honestly, there are people that are legitimately impossible to please, and it's a waste of energy even trying. Unfortunately for themselves and everyone around them, they tend to focus on all that is wrong and all that they don't have, rather than choosing to recognize all that there is to be grateful for. We see this everywhere, and it seems to be a growing phenomenon. I see it in individuals on my own team. The truly sad thing is, they don't really understand the degree to which they're creating their own miserable existence. They choose instead to look for reasons to be offended and think their problems are someone else's responsibility to fix. I've spent far too much of my life and career trying to figure out how to make people happy, and it is extremely costly to one's own mental health and well-being. A third cause of people-pleasing is that you want to avoid conflict. It's the path of least resistance, right? You may avoid confrontation so you can make others happy, or to give the illusion that you agree with them, even if you don't. And while conflict has a negative connotation, it is actually a part of effective communication and personal growth. If you can appropriately navigate conflict with another person at work, at home, or in other areas of your life, it will make you a stronger person. If you avoid conflict altogether, you'll likely build up some resentment, and at some point, you reduce your ability to be seen as effective, and you risk never letting others see your unique perspective. A fourth cause of people-pleasing is that you fear rejection or abandonment. Most of us have some fear of rejection. It could be fear of rejection from a job or from another person. For example, if you're worried you may be rejected by your boss and that you might get fired, you might go above and beyond, no matter the cost on your mental health. Another example would be that if you fear your significant other or your spouse might leave you, then you'll work on pleasing them rather than expecting them to reciprocate the same level of giving and respect that you show to them. Fifth, you don't want to feel guilty for saying no. Saying no is really hard to do for people pleasers. We have a hard time creating boundaries and knowing our own limits. You get so focused on pleasing everyone else, you say yes to everything. I talked about setting boundaries as a people pleaser in episode number 15. A sixth reason that you may be a people pleaser or approval seeker is that you're easily influenced by others. Some people are just more easily persuaded to think and feel a certain way. They have a harder time coming up with and standing in their own ideas and perspective. Number 7, you just want to fit in. Maybe there's a group of people that you really want to like you and include in their group. You may go out of your way to go above and beyond to fit in with them. We see this all the time with kids of all ages, from elementary school to high school. In an effort to fit in with a certain peer group, you do things for them you might not otherwise want to do. You may go out of your way to do their homework, dress like them, or make fun of other kids because you want to fit in with them. I've had my own battle scars from this sort of thing that I shared about in episode number 9. Sometimes it's downright painful now to see this sort of dynamic in kids. I want to tell every little girl who is trying so hard to fit in that she just needs to be brave and courageous and stand strong in the beauty and the uniqueness that she has to offer the world. Number 8, you want others to be nice to you. You feel like if you're nice to others, then everyone will be nice to you in return. Well, unfortunately, this is not at all always the case. You never know what's going on inside another person's life or mind. Even though you're nice to someone, it doesn't mean that they will be nice in return. Number 9 on the list. Your self-worth comes from external validation. This has always existed, but it seems to be an epidemic now in the days of social media, posting selfies, and trying to get as many likes as possible. We find ourselves needing others to validate that we are a good person. Maybe you go out of your way to pay for a stranger's cup of coffee one morning, which is a really nice thing to do, but then you feel the urge to post about it on Facebook. You're no longer giving for the sake of giving. Now you're looking for others to bear witness and validate that you're a good person. Here's a hard truth about this kind of behavior, and it's especially hard for us people pleasers to hear. This kind of approval seeking is a form of idolatry. We'll dive into that a bit more in future episodes, but yeah, that's the truth, folks. And number 10. Okay, here's a tough one. You people please because you want something in return. Sorry, folks, but this is another ugly truth about people pleasing. Sometimes we go above and beyond with an expectation that we'll receive the same care and attention in return. But not everyone is willing or even as capable of giving as much time, attention, gifts, or even love as another. If this is your expectation, at some point you're going to feel that you're giving far more to a relationship than the other person. You may then start to think that no one cares as much about you as you do about them. Now, it's true, some people are too self-involved, even narcissistic, to give to others. They don't reciprocate that which they expect. But more often, other people may just be demonstrating better self-care and better boundaries than we are. It's important to find a balance between self-care and caring for others. Last on the list of reasons to people please, you lack self-love. This is probably the most deeply rooted and sad truth about people pleasers. They're usually ready to lend a hand or be there for someone else, but when it comes down to it, they're not there for themselves. People pleasers usually don't feel good enough or worthy enough to put their needs first. And the most unfortunate part about this, what it really means is that they don't walk in a heart knowledge of how very loved they are by our Father God. Apart from Christ, no one of us is worthy. We're all sinners. But because of Jesus and the atonement we have through his death on the cross, we are made adopted children of God. We are joint heirs with Jesus to the kingdom of God. We are loved at a depth that surpasses all human understanding. This is the love and acceptance that we ought to be searching for, not the approval and acceptance of man. Seeking our worth and value through the lens of man will leave us empty and disappointed. Seeking instead to understand and accept the perfect and complete love of God is the only way to truly break free from the need to please others to the detriment of our own self-care. The Bible is filled with the affirming truth of God's love for us. 1 John tells us, I am not distant and angry, but am the complete expression of love, and it is my desire to lavish my love on you, simply because you are my child and I am your Father. In Matthew we hear, I offer you more than your earthly father ever could, for I am the perfect Father. And finally, Jeremiah tells us, my plan for your future has always been filled with hope, because I love you with an everlasting love. Sister friends, my wish for you is that you grow in a true heart knowledge of how very loved you are, so that you can break free from the chains of people-pleasing and approval-seeking. That is my prayer for you today, friends. And as you face the days ahead, may you be grateful and grace-filled. I pray this episode blessed you, spoke to you, or encouraged you in some way. If so, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a written review. That's the only way for me to know if you are enjoying the show. Nothing blesses me more than to hear from you. Also, come on over to our free Facebook community. This is a great place for us to support one another on our faith and leadership journey. You can find the link to the group in the show notes. Or go to gracefilledleader.com/community. Now to Him who can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Until next time, my friends, God bless.